Okay, what's up guys? So today I'm going to be recording a 55% Dokkanfest EZA tier list. I realized, being a long member of the community, that most tier lists and discussion around units happens at the 100% level, which is definitely good because that's sort of the best environment you can view them. All are sort of equal in that sense. And you always want to see the best out of a unit, the numbers are the highest, and all that stuff. But if you're a player like me, and I feel like most players, they don't usually have every unit at 100%. A lot of older units, especially if you played for a long time, a lot of older units can be at 100% for people, because you just pull them when you're doing banners and stuff like that. But sometimes you just don't get lucky. It's just not going your way, and whatever it is, you don't spend money. Whatever happenstance it is. I think it's also a very interesting discussion to talk about these units at a 55% level. And I feel like it's not just rehashing the same sort of opinions at 100%. While 100% can transfer over to 55%, I think the meta at 55% is actually fairly different. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that still holds over. The general top 10 is kind of stays the same, but units do move around. I think what's important to note for this tier list and how it'll really differentiate from an 100% tier list is that all these units will be having lower stats. You're going to have less health, you're going to have less attack, and most importantly, you're going to be having less defense. So really defensive units at 100% are going to just kind of be, your strong hitters, but sort of like middling defensive units at 100%, where you can kind of squeeze by with them. You just can't at a 55% level, and you're really going to have to either get lucky or have to have a different strategy. And also same with attack. With your attack stats being a lot lower, you're going to move through events slower. A great example, I know he's not a Dokkanfest EZA, I just have him here for an example. Tech Gohan, if your whole team is a lot lower, he actually will do, I'm not going to say he's do better than 100%, but he will feed better because you will be able to go slower through an event and get him more stacks than if you're at 100% and you're kind of blitzing events quicker. Another thing that adds to that is that at 55%, a lot of these units don't have additionals or crits unless they're built into their kit. When they come to the orbs at 55%, they only get to level 5 at their level for their class. And for in-type units, you're only getting 5 dodge. You're not getting any crit or additional. AGL and physical units get 5 additional, and strength and tech units get 5 crit. And I think when I'm going to be analyzing these units, I'm going to not take into consideration the orbs, the skill orbs that you put into units, where you can give them a bronze and a silver, because at 55% you can only do bronze, silver, you can't do a gold. I won't take that into consideration just because there are so many different ones and you can mix and match them. People have so many different things. So I won't take that into consideration. When I talk about a strength unit, and I'm not going to take in the fact that they could additional again, I'm only going to take in the fact that they have a small chance to crit. But of course, some of these units are better when you give them orbs. And when I talk about the unit, I will say, hey, this unit has no additional and they would really like an additional. So you should probably give them an additional. But with those sort of criteria, it is going to change this tier list a little bit. So let's get on with it. Let's not waste any more time. At number 10, I have Vegito here. He is still not that great. I would actually say he's a little bit better for 55%. And the only reason being, you are going to die a lot more from a super attack with these units. At 55%, your defenses are just a lot lower, and so with more units dying to a super attack, you really are going to feed a lot more with him getting this minus 80% from normals. Even at 55%, this guy's not taking damage from normals pretty much. So at a 55%, I actually think he's doing better than at 100%. 100%, he of course he's great, but he works the same at 100% as he does at 55%. But at 100%, more units can take hits, so his value is a little bit lower. Still not the greatest, because of course you're not able to take those big hits, but definitely a sizable unit. You're basically just using them for this damage reduction at 80. It's 80% damage reduction from normal hits. Next, I have Tech Super Saiyan 4 Goku. And honestly, you could swap these two. There's not a big difference. Tech Super Saiyan 4 Goku is pretty good. His biggest issue is that he's just a lot of stats, and units who are a lot of stats at 55% don't do as good as units who have utility. And so if you're at full health, he's actually pretty good. His defense is not like the greatest. He'll die to a super, but he can usually take normals-ish, roughly, depends on the boss. And so, you know, if you drop at all, like especially if you have less defense, you know, you can get whittled down in some of these fights. They can hurt you. And so, you know, if you drop to like 60%, like this guy's stats start to look real rough, and he might not even be able to take normals anymore. He does have some viability, or at least some tech with nullifying super attacks, which can be pretty good, and forcing when you're below 59% HP, and full power. Full power is not too bad right now. So he has some of that, but his biggest drawback, and the reason he's kind of low here, is he's just a stat unit, and then these stats at 55%, just not going to be the best for best content. Okay, so next on the list I have Strength Namek Goku. So for him, I definitely would say he's above these two, where I feel like you can swap these two. And honestly, once I finish the full list, I feel like you can even swap these two with the ones that don't make it. And I'll get into that once the full list is done. Strength Namek Goku, I put a little higher because he has some actual defensive capability. The other two can be defensive, but they have clear weaknesses. Both of them either low defense or can't take a super. This guy, at the very least, has a chance to actually survive super attacks. His base form is not the greatest. It's just stats, and like I said, stats aren't usually that good. We're at a 55%, but he's able to hold his own in the beginning of the fight. I think it's easier to hit. Another point is easier to hit these thresholds at 55%. You take damage a little bit easier, and so I think you're going to hit under 77 left, or under 77% or less, just easier at a 55% level. So I feel like getting his transformation is not even the hardest thing. Turn 3 is pretty good, and once he transforms, he has a pretty good chance. He'll be a pretty good chance of surviving, you know, super attacks, and definitely it should be taking normals pretty well. He stacks his defense, and he has this guard chance here, medium chance of guarding. And if that procs, and you get a couple stacks in, especially because I think you can get transformation probably by turn 3 with some luck, this guy is going to be doing pretty good defensively for you as long as you get his guard. And so it's kind of the coin flip, but I would put him, you know, above these two because these guys are probably going to die. I mean, he at least has a chance because you could counter. And so I'm going to put him above these two because this guy, you know, probably is going to be surviving more times than these two will. And so, you know, defensive capabilities are even more important at 55% than they are at 100%. You know, if you're really annoyed looking at 100% tier lists and how much they really prioritize defensive capabilities, it's only going to get worse at 55%. That defense runs the world in 55%. And so then we got next, I'm going to put Super Boo on the list. He is kind of lower than I think most people put him at 100%. And the only reason I say that is just because he is especially at 55%, this guy is just like a complete nothing. Like this first 5 turns, like you really, it's dire for this guy. He's really struggling. He can just get killed so easily, especially at 55%. Like this guy, his weakness is just these first 5 turns. And just like I said, I think it's easier to be lower in health at a 55%. That I think the chances of you getting Boo Piccolo's good, but the chances of you getting like Boo Go tanks are just is higher, and that's scary. You definitely don't want to be getting Boo Go tanks. So this guy is just awful at that point. And he's only getting defense of 100%. At 55%, this dude just has normals. Our normals are hurting him at this point. You know, I mean, that's the thing. This guy's first 5 turns are really rough, and your chance of getting Gotenks, Boo Gotenks are even higher. Boo Piccolo's great though. You get this. Looking at the on his thing, he's only getting 140, but this is not going to happen. You're not getting the defense down. Sorry, I messed up. He's getting the 80 and the 140, but still, you're not, like, it's just not enough. You're going to get hurt with this guy. But Boo Piccolo is good. This is still like that 50% damage reduction is super good. Even at 55%, that guy is taking super attacks pretty well. And Boo Ultimate Gon is still really good at 55%. The stacks kicking in, that chance to guard is pretty good. So this guy is still great. Even at 100%, 55%, this guy is a monster. Sadly, at 55%, he doesn't have a chance to be doing these additionals, but he does have additional in his kit. So that's the other part that makes him great. Even though you can't give him additional, he can still do additionals. So that's even better. That's going to help you just get that. So this guy is still really good. The only reason he's just not higher is because this form is just going to hurt you a lot, and your chance getting Gotenks are going to hurt you a lot too. So he's at 7. Next, I'm going to put Cooler. It's kind of debating Cooler. Cooler, especially at 55%. I debate where I should put him. He's good, but this guy can get messed up. I decided to put him higher than Boo because his support's really good, and he also stacks too. You're gonna be moving slower through fights, so you can kind of get his defense to an okay-ish. I mean, his defense is always. I think at 55%, he's not really gonna hit a point where he's like eating supers pretty good, but you can stack him, take a little longer to get through the fight, and you'll get to I think you can take normals with this guy. This guy can get beat. You kind of have to hide him a little bit, but he'll live. You know, mainly using him for his support, and you're going to be using him with Cooler, of course, LR strength Cooler, and that guy actually at 55% might be holding him back because he's going to be doing so much damage, but I think it's just that support really edges them over Boo, where like I feel like they can both die in this exact same scenario. At the very least, EZA Cooler is giving you a support, you know. So I'm gonna put him at 6 for that. Next, I have Android 17. I actually might put Android 17 higher than most. This guy, I think, is great for 55%. He just does a lot for your team. This dude, like, he's not the, like, so over 77%, he's not the tankiest. He can get caught with a super attack. But most of the time you're running this guy in slot 3. And so the super attacks can have a slot 3, but they're a little less likely than like slot 1. And so he can hold his own. You're going to get an additional 5, so your chance of double defense raise are pretty good. Well, not pretty good, 10% chance, but, you know, better than nothing. But especially because, again, like, I think you're going to be kind of in the lower HP range. He's going to be rocking this 40% with the 17, and he's tanking pretty good. At 55%, this guy is a pretty good tank, actually. And on top of that, him giving the whole team 3 key and 60% defense at all times, he's really buffing your units. This guy's doing a lot for you, actually. At 55%, I think this guy is pretty good. I think like these utility units and support units, I think just have a lot more use at a 55%. They just, I feel like they're doing so much more for you at 55% than maybe like at 100%. They're really helping at 100, but like 55%, these guys are just like really important. And I even debated putting them higher. Actually, well, I'll show you the next one after him. We have Beerus here. And, you know, I mean, I could probably be convinced to put him above Beerus, but Beerus is pretty good too. These two are pretty close. I mean, right now, I got like these two sort of can be changed. This guy's pretty much here. I mean, you could probably mess around with these 3. It's really up to preference at that point. but I think 5 and up is pretty set. I think these guys are all pretty set. Beerus is pretty good. I know he's not on global yet, but on JP, he's solid. He gets this 30%, 40%. He can get up to 70% damage reduction. You of course need 3 key and 7 key. That can be pretty difficult to do, but you run some good orb changers for his teams. You know, you have the Tech God Goku is an orb changer. I think he's on, you know, some of these teams. A God Goku is an orb changer. You can run him there. I think his best team, or at least his 200%, is Kid Gohan. He has 200%. I think there's some decent orb changers on Kid Gohan's team. You could get, you know, who is a good orb changer you'd run for the team? None are popping out for me, but I mean, there are orb changers out there, like good ones, that I would say that you could get for his team. None are coming out at me right now. I could just be blind and just not seeing it, but you know, you just get some orb changes for him, feed him those orbs, and you'd be doing pretty good. He can be a solid slot 1 paired with this Beerus here. He could be a solid slot 1 character, 70% damage reduction, and only because his damage reduction, at least potential, I'd probably put him above 17 here. You can get that damage reduction, and this guy, yeah, 55% is doing really good at tanking. This guy's tanking like pretty damn well at 55%. So I'm gonna have to put him just above 17, but I really do think 17, you could probably swap these two around. 17 has so much utility, and he's so helpful for the teams that you put him on. Yeah, I just like him pretty damn well. Okay, so now we're in the top 3. And I think number 3 is pretty controversial of a pick. I got this guy, Strength, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Kaioken Goku. He's pretty good. I know this, so I'm gonna say this is pretty controversial. I know a lot of people consider him 1 or 2 in the top 2. That's for 100%. At a 55%, this guy is still pretty damn strong. I mean, he's hitting still pretty hard at a 55%. But I feel like it's the same thing I've been saying. He's stats, and he has, here's the thing, he has guard, and that is going to help him. The whole point of the unit is that you're guarding for, you know, those 5 turns that you get a Universal Final Saga ally on the team. You're guarding for those turns, and you drop the Spirit Bomb. But there's a few things that at 55% I think are just holding this guy back. Of course, I'm assuming your whole team is at 55%, but that's also not realistic. I know running a lot of these old units, people can have them multiple times, but I feel like I want to keep it fair and consistent. Say you're running a whole team at 55%, you're moving through an event a lot slower. So you're going to be hitting that end phase a lot slower, in my opinion. And because of that, you might run out of this guard by the time you get to the final phase. You know, get to the final phase of Omega Shenron, or get to the final phase of Broly, or get to the final phase of all these units. You probably would have run on Broly because the UIs can't dodge, but you get what I'm saying. You get to the final phase of these units, and you don't have the guard, right? And so that can really mess you up. And on top of that, his attack's just lower. At 100%, he's going to have these huge attack stats. We're talking, you know, 25 million. He's dropping a Spirit Bomb for 32 million, and he's doing 25 million attacks right after. At 55%, he's still doing a lot of damage, but, you know, he'll drop maybe he'll drop the Spirit Bomb for 20 million, and then he's doing, you know, 15 million, right? He's just doing less. And his whole purpose is that you're doing just an absolutely insane amount of damage. But at 55%, you can't do an insane amount of damage, right? So you might just fall short of actually killing a unit outright, and then he could be a liability. Another thing is, of course, at 55%, you're going to be losing health easier, and the risk of you dropping below 59% and activating the 59% attack with the super effective all types before you even want to drop the Super Bomb is pretty likely. You know, you can just get tagged with a super attack where At 100%, a unit might be able to eat it pretty damn well. At 55%, oh well, unit dropped me, 50%, and now this guy activated his passive, and now the Spirit Bomb is going to be even weaker when I do eventually drop it. Another thing is that I am considering him at 55%, so he won't, as a strength unit, he does not have a built-in additional. His built-in additional will be here, but there's no doing 3 additionals that you can do at 100%, which is also another reason why he's going to hit so much harder. At 100%, he can be dropping 3 super attacks throughout the fight, and there's just so many reasons that it's just the Spirit Bomb is so much weaker, and when that's his entire purpose, I can't say he's number 1 because of that. I would say at a rainbow level, I can see him being number 1 for sure. Definitely, that damage is insane. That's the whole point. But at a 55%, he's just like, his whole point is just weakened. Another reason too is that assuming you're running a full 55% team, the Universe 5 Saga allies will be running with him, and Universe 7 especially, that you need to drop his nuke, are weaker. Of course, we do have Android 17, who I think is great. I think you're just gonna have to run him, and then you have the 2 UIs who you're just praying on dodge. So it's not impossible, of course. The UIs keep dodging, they got a 70% chance, and 17 I think is good enough as long as you're not getting tagged well, you're not getting like unlucky tags on them, you get a pretty good chance of still dropping his nuke, no doubt. And so because of that, it's got to drop lower. I can definitely see this as a controversial placing for him, but I think being not the greatest, like he's not really a utility unit, he's completely there to do damage for you. And don't get me wrong, at 55%, this guy is still doing crazy damage. That is no doubt. You, being a strength unit, with that 10% chance of crit, you drop this and you get the lucky crit. This guy, I mean, he's killing bosses, no doubt. He's killing bosses, and it's not like it's not like the strategy that you do with him at 100% is not even usable at 55%. The strategy is still usable with him. It's just not nearly as consistent, and I think consistency is just going to be better for you at the 55% than next. So then number 2, second spot, again probably controversial. I actually have blue Gogeta. He, I think, is just gonna help out at 55% so much. He is, it's all in the dodge. Him being able to dodge is a lifesaver. At 55%, you really want to try your best to not get tagged. You want to not get touched as much as possible. And the best way to do that is to dodge. At 55%, you can't build characters with dodge. Unless they're an 8 unit, you're not building with dodge unless you put the skill orbs to give them, like, some dodge here or there. But even then, it's not a reliable amount of dodge. You can't build reliable dodge in units. So usually at 55%, you're taking way more hits than you do at maybe 100%. You're going to be taking more hits. And so whatever you can do to mitigate hits, you're going to want. Dodge units have more value at a 55%. UI Goku, I think, is better at a 55% than he is. Or he's not better, of course, but his value is a little higher at 55% for 55% people than he is for 100% people. Because 100% people can make units have 25 dodge, where free to play 55%, you're getting 5 dodge at int units, and if you're not even rocking an in unit, it's low. You're going to take a lot more hits. So because of that, this guy's just built-in dodge is doing a lot for you. High chance, 50% chance in his Super Saiyan form. Turn 4, 70% chance to dodge, and that's just great. Because of that, this guy, I'm putting him above Blue Cow again. He's doing so much for you with that dodge. He's helping out a lot. It's all in the dodge. His damage is great too. He's gonna be doing damage, guaranteed crits. I mean, him being blue, like he's the only unit, or at least the best unit on here who's doing everything for you. He's got built-in dodge, he's guaranteed critting, and because he is an AGL unit, you give the 5 additional. So he can additional, he's guaranteed critting, and he has a decent chance, he has a really good chance at dodging. This guy's just doing everything, and at 55%, I think he's just really invaluable because of that. You want to take the least amount of hits as possible. And number 1, I think is obvious now, Piccolo. I know this is a heated debate at the 100% at who is the best between these two. 100% it's very much debated. Is Piccolo better? Spirit Bomb Goku better? And I think just Piccolo is just better at 55%, no doubt. his utility is just way more important than Goku's Spirit Bomb. You are going to be doing longer fights. You want to be able to survive. You're free to play, 55%, whatever it is. You are sort of kind of grounding yourself and holding out longer. That's the whole point. And so because of that, this guy's stacking defense. This guy is showing you the enemy super attack, which is so incredibly important. At 55%, your whole team's 55%. And sometimes you can just see a super attack and you're dead. There's nothing you can do. But if you're able to see a super attack and you got someone like Gogeta on the team, you got someone that can dodge it, you have Super Saiyan 4 Goku who can counter it, gives you a good chance, or you have defensive units. Of course, there are defensive units. Vegeta and Trunks at 55% are still able to tank very damn well. And so there's still units at 55% who can tank really well, and being able to see those super attacks just helps so much. Orange Piccolo, this guy paired with Orange Piccolo is insane. Orange Piccolo can take the hits, and this guy's showing you where we're at. He's stacking defense, and he also has a additional built-in. So you also, this guy has a built-in additional, so you can be double stacking, and he's a physical unit, so you get the 5 free additional, so you can be triple stacking with him. That, and then on top of that, his transformation is just really good. Namekian's in a good position. You're going to be getting his transformation, no doubt. I mean, that's just going to happen. You definitely will be transforming with this guy. And, you know, Orange Piccolo and all that, they're in a good spot. They're runnable, especially at 55%. They're runnable. So you will be transforming with him. And this guy's great. The damage reduction is really helpful. Again, foreseeing enemy super attack. He can now crit. He will launch an additional attack. He can do everything. He literally, in transformed, is doing everything he's just not dodging. But again, if you stack him up in this form, and then he has 40% damage reduction. This guy slot 2, Orange Piccolo slot 1. I mean, at 55%, that's one of your best rotations, no doubt. These guys will carry you through events. And so that is my reasoning for him being number 1, and, you know, Spirit Bomb Goku being number 3. And this is going to be the list. I know, and this is what I'm saying. I'm going to make more lists at 55%, but you can see that at 100%, this list looks differently. Talking about some of these bottom units down here. Cooler's pretty good, but his build-up's a little too slow, and the fact that you got to get hit with him can really hurt. At 55%, he can get hit pretty hard. Broly, his stats just aren't good enough. He's kind of a stat, you know, he just needs stats. 50%, that's not going to be doing good for you. Same with Kid Goku. I mean, he's just tied to HP as well. Bardock, not bad, but again, stats, he's just going to get hit. UI, too low at this point. He doesn't have built-in additional, so you're going to be stacking slower. Turles, I mean, the same. I mean, all these guys, I think this guy usually appears on people's tier list for 100%, but him just being so with lower stats and the time it takes to build up, I think even at full 58% damage reduction, this guy's still going to be taking a decent bit of damage from bosses' super attacks, just because your stats are lower. And then these two, I think, again, just stats are too low. At least all these guys give you a proper chance at surviving. I mean, even 10th place, Vegito, you're surviving normals. This guy can counter. This guy can guard. This guy just has a really good support. Honestly, he might just, as the meta keeps going, he'll probably drop more and more. Sadly, it's sad to say, but he's not really giving you a lot of defense ability, but his support's really good. And he stacks defense. So if you can hide him, he can do pretty good. This guy, of course, damage reduction. This guy's damage is just so good that I can't put him at least, you know, lower than 5. And even at 55%, this guy's still doing crazy damage. Don't get it wrong, this guy's going crazy. And then, of course, dodge and guard and 4C. Or not guard, damage reduction and 4C enemy supers. So you can see in a 55% tier list, it's all a defense game. You need units who are going to be able to at least give you that chance to be surviving super attacks, to take normals and stuff like that. So none of these guys really give you that, so they're not going to be doing that. Of course, Gohan is not in the tier list. He can't apply for the tier list. He's not a Dokkanfest EZA. I'm sure his EZA will be crazy, or not, because they're probably going to tone it down. He's already still usable to this day, and surprisingly pretty good at 55%. So that's the tier list. And you know, I hope you see that. And when I do the other ones, I think they're also going to be different from sort of the 100%. I hope this is useful. Like I said, at least for me, I don't have everyone. Rainbow, I don't spend money on the game, but I do play for a long time. I've been playing for about 7 years at this point, so I know how like all the metas are moved, and I have a lot of units at 55%. I play 55%. A lot of people are not getting the units like crazy. You get lucky to get them. I do recognize that a lot of these units are older, so I'm not surprised. Some people have him maybe at 2 dupes, and if he's at 2 dupes, he's going to go higher, right? Because he's going to do more damage, more additionals, all that stuff. But this is just for 55%. This is where I would place him. If I'm going to put him in blocks, I think top 5 are definitely in their own tier, and then 6 down, probably 6 to 8 are in their own tier, and then 9, 10 are in their own tier. Then these guys will all be in the bottom tier. I think this is what you shoot for. Piccolo is just the best for 55%. Yeah, and that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope to see you guys next time. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.